Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Saturday, May 13th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and our Saturday contributor, and who joins us usually, Kevin Beach, will be with us as well in a few moments. And we're breaking down two games for you this weekend on this Saturday edition of the show. And a reminder, just so I don't get asked about it this week like last week, this is our only show this weekend. We will not be on the air tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday following today's show. So we will talk about both weekend games today. We'll preview them as usual. We've got Game 6, Dallas-Seattle tonight. Kraken looking to stave off elimination. And then tomorrow night, we'll look at Game 6 with Vegas and Edmonton, with the Oilers looking to stay alive in that series. So we'll preview those two games. But first, as always, we'll look back on last night's action and what's become an annual tradition here on the Ice Guys show. We say goodbye to the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Although this year, at least, we say goodbye one round later than we normally do. But nevertheless, the Leaf season came to an end last night with a 3-2 overtime loss against the Florida Panthers. When you look at the way that game started, you knew it was maybe not going to be Toronto's night. And once it got to 2-0, I really didn't think it was going to be Toronto's night. It was just a tough start. As soon as Florida got those goals, the same old shit in terms of the atmosphere and the environment inside Scotiabank Arena. It turned into a morgue. It turned into a mortuary, whatever word you want to use. It was just, you could hear a pin drop in the building. When Florida got that early lead, everybody was just dead silent, and it filtered down to the way the Leafs played at times in that first period. That being said, they really had nothing going, and then they got the first goal, which was Morgan Rielly's goal on the point shot. We thought maybe David Kampf deflected it. It did not deflect off him, so Morgan Rielly got the credit for the goal, and it ended up being 2-1. And from that point, the crowd actually did finally make some of the loudest noise they did all night. Clearly got into it after that goal. The Leafs were back into it. And look, from that point on, Toronto really, this is not, normally I take every opportunity to just hammer this team, and another disappointment, another failure, and another early exit in the playoffs, although we should give them credit for at least finally ending the first round jinx at least and winning their first series in 19 years. But it's kind of like last year. I mean, how badly can you rip this team? I mean, they went out valiantly again. I mean, the effort was there. Clearly it was. They carried the play to Florida. What do they have, 50 shots on goal on Sergei Bobrovsky? I mean, what can you say? I mean, the team just, they left it all out on the ice, so I can't say they didn't show up, and they're gutless or anything like that. This isn't Montreal 2 years ago when Toronto really was gutless. There was no pushback. There was no desperation. There was no urgency. There was a complete flat performance in Game 7 in particular of that first round when they got bounced by Montreal. Last year, they went out in a valiant way, battled right to the end, lost in 7 against Tampa Bay in the first round. This year, the thing you have to criticize Toronto is not their lack of effort, not their lack of will, not their lack of, wanting it enough. They did. What hurt them in this series was that they just weren't good enough in the first 3 games of this series, and it cost them. You just can't put yourselves behind 3-0, in the series and expect to, win a series. It's going to be very difficult. And just the critical mistakes they made in each of the first 3 games, Game 1, especially Game 2, when they had that game was right there in the palm of their hand. The way they came out, they blasted Florida in the first period of Game 2. And those mistakes at their own blue line and those turnovers by their best players, okay, their high-priced talent made those mistakes. And it ended up in the back of their net in Game 2. And that was the game that it was really felt like the series might be getting away from Toronto. And then, of course, they ended up losing Game 3 as well in Florida before finally avoiding the sweep. And then last night, again, down 2-0, they battle back. Nylander ties it on a brilliant, rush goal down the right wing side, beating Bobrovsky with just a perfectly placed shot, 2-2. But again, in overtime, I thought they had their chances. But at the end of the day, this series comes down to, look, you had your chances, you had your shots, but you needed more finish. You needed more production from your big guns. Okay, credit to Nylander, who was good in the last game or two. Marner got a goal in game 4 of that series, but really outside of that, Tavares, disappointing. Couldn't stay on his feet half the series, falling down left and right. Million chances for him, multiple breakaway chances, couldn't finish. And of course, the big one, the glaring one, is number 34. It's Austin Matthews. 0 goals in 5 games in that series. He's got to do better than that. He's getting paid to do better than that. And I don't want to hear chances and opportunities. And I don't want to hear, Bobrovsky stood on his head. No, you got to be clinical and surgical. And at this time of year, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that, the goalie robbed me multiple times. The goalie stole the multiple goals from me. Nobody wants to hear that shit. Leaf fans don't want to hear that shit. They hear it every year in the excuse department. You are getting paid to put the puck in the fucking net, period. And you have to at this time of year if you're going to live up to the reputation of being one of the best players in the National Hockey League. This is the time of year you have to show it. It's not just 82 games in the regular season. I show it and then I don't show it in the postseason. It doesn't work that way. You've got to be able to show it in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And now this is multiple playoffs where, number 34, Austin Matthews, has to look himself into a mirror and how can I impact the postseason the way I do in the regular season? Because right now he's not, period. End of story. He's not. And somehow he's got to look at himself and say, how do I get better? How do I become that impact player in the playoffs like Nathan McKinnon has been, like Braden Point has been, like Taves and Kane were in the Chicago days? How do I become that player that can lead my team and will us to victory in the playoffs? And he ain't there. He ain't close right now. And it's going to be a hard off season for him. It's going to be a hard off season for a lot of the Leafs' best players who, quite frankly, they were a little bit better than last year, a lot better than 2 years ago. I will say that, but not enough to go to the place they want to go. And that, of course, is at least a Stanley Cup final. So the Leafs bow out again. The drought now moves to what? I've lost count. 56 years now without a Stanley Cup for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But hey, they can put a banner up in the Scotiabank Arena at the beginning of next season. First round series victory for the first time since 2004. You can put that banner up there at Scotiabank Arena. I'm sure still there's some Leaf fans that are going to say, hey, what a great season it was because we finally won a first round series. But to me, it's still, good on you. You won a series, but it's still disappointing. And now an off season of fucking epic proportions is about to begin for the Leafs. Their GM doesn't have a contract. Kyle Dubas, his contract's up. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with him? Is Brendan Shanahan going to stick around as president of hockey operations? We don't know that. Matthews is going to be a UFA after next season. His future now in doubt. Ilya Samsonov, who this year was your best goalie for much of the season, is without a contract right now. I mean, salary cap, you're totally fucked right up against it, and you're totally in a cash strapped beyond belief. So you talk about tough to Sheldon Keefe. What the hell happens to him? You got to think if Dubas ain't coming back, his job's in peril because he's Dubas's guy. I mean, you talk about an off season of just get your popcorn ready. Holy shit, get your popcorn ready when it comes to this Toronto Maple Leafs off season. There's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot of tough decisions that are going to have to be made, and it is going to be a busy one, and it is going to be one filled with activity as far as what the Toronto Maple Leafs do in the coming months. Alex, what do you think here? Like I say, people expected me to just rant and rave and yell and scream. I've done that already. I'm tired. This team's made me tired the last few years. But besides, it's hard for me to rant and rave and yell and scream when the effort was commendable, even in defeat last night for the Toronto Maple Leafs in that Game 5 loss. We're happy, of course. We had Florida plus money to finish that series last night, a nice plus 150 price. And one last thing, too, and I know there's Leaf fans that have said this, and I'm not going to talk about the goal, the controversial call too much, okay? I understand why they called it no goal. It was called no goal on the ice. You have to have irrefutable evidence to overturn it once that call is no goal on the ice. And second of all, look, the referee apparently blew the whistle or intended to blow the whistle before we saw Bobrovsky lift his pad up where the puck was in. That's just the way it was. That's why it was called no goal. I think it's horseshit, to be honest. I think it probably should have been a goal because they shouldn't have blown the whistle in the first place. The puck's in the net. But at the end of the day, I don't want to hear Leaf fans lost the series because of that, or they got screwed. And that's why they lost the game and lost the series. No, there's more reasons to that. There's way more reasons to that. I hate when people just go to the refs screwed us. We got jobbed. We got hosed. We got screwed. That's why we lost. No, that is never the reason you lose. Could a bad call go against you sometimes and, be part of the puzzle? Yeah. But saying that single-handedly lost you the game in the series, come on now. Alex, Leafs out, Florida. Credit to Florida, by the way.
Yeah.
Eastern Conference Finals. Paul Maurice's third conference final now in his head coaching career. Did it with Carolina. And he got to the Cup final with Carolina that year, 2002. Conference final with Winnipeg a few years ago against Vegas, and now his third conference final with Florida. He's turned into a coach that's had a nice career, and this is really a feather in his cap, really, that he's gotten to a third conference final. And why not win a Stanley Cup for this Florida team? Why not them at this point?
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're just as live as anybody, and what more fitting of a spot for Paul Maurice to come in to and now have to play, like you said, the team that he did lead to a Stanley Cup final. It's just a great storyline. I'm sure ESPN and TNT will badger to death, as we will also. But looking back at the last series, I mean, Toronto, they are who we thought they were, right? This is the same old hat for 2 decades now. And at this point, we have to start looking at their credit rating, right? Like they are not that A+, AA, AAA franchise anymore, right? We have to downgrade Toronto as a whole if we haven't already. Like the elite shit, we can't even start using that word with this franchise, this team at all. As good as these players have been and all these great regular season feats and achievements, all-stars, individual awards, they've done jack shit once the season changes to spring, year after year after year. And we can't keep them at this high level that we've been keeping them for so long. Okay. History, yes, it's important. We never forget it, but it's history. Most of their shit is history in the past. And the future is going to be bleak. As you mentioned, they're up against it with the cap. They've got contract issues they got to figure out. They've just got general, they don't have a face of their franchise, in my opinion. We can automatically just think Austin Matthews because we see him on commercials and video game covers, but he's not the face of that franchise because they've always had Marner. They tried to do, like you said, the dual thing like Taves and Kane. That didn't really work out. Then they had, Tavares. They tried to do the big three look like they're in the NBA. That didn't really work. And then you add these pieces and nothing has really completely gelled. Okay, of course, you've had injuries over time. Every team has injuries. You have coaching issues over time. Every team has coaching issues. But they just have not been able to really be, we call them the core four, but have they really been a core? Honestly, no. They really haven't. They've been individual parts, and sometimes they gel together and string some wins together. And because the rest of the Atlantic Division has sucked for so long, they found themselves in the playoffs year after year. This team is not a top-tier team. They just aren't. And this franchise is certainly not a top-tier franchise. And we have to just call it for what it is. They need a massive overhaul, and it probably involves a teardown from GM all the way down. You scrub this roster complete. You get a new coach. You get a new GM. You have to build a philosophy here. There's no winning culture or philosophy with Toronto. We joke about it with the fans all the time. The wine and cheese crowd. Everything. Maybe you change the fucking logo at this point. Honestly, it's that deep rooted that there's so much shit that just needs to be mixed up. And I'm not saying, in the sense of just, we forget everything in the past. You still bring the past into it, but there has to be some semblance of like the future ahead. There's no feel of future with this franchise when you watch them. Just sit and watch them as a fan. Fuck having a bet on them. Just sit and watch the Toronto Maple Leafs and watch their games at Scotiabank Arena. Seeing it from a TV perspective, there's no real energy and life. And we talk about that with the crowd, and it trickles down on the ice. The best teams in the league, when they're the best teams in the league, the crowd supports them like they're the best teams in the league. And there's a reason why Toronto fans don't do it. Yes, they've been snake bit for years, but it's also because the players on the ice don't give you much to cheer about in that big of a fashion. So it's deeper than just they got bounced 4-1 in the second round of the playoffs. They need a bunch of changes, and we really don't even have that much time to go through all of them. But like I said, you can't blame this on one call. Okay, they came back off of the call. They tied the game. They sent it to overtime. You can't blame it on that weird icing call. They were able to negate that. Like there's no blame here to be thrown anywhere else. They have to look inward. It's everything in blue and white to blame right now, and everybody's got to do some soul searching in that area and in that organization.
Well, I know you said it 2 years ago. We did our show post first round with Toronto and Montreal, and that was sickening how they laid down and they didn't show any battle or any fight in that series against Montreal. At least last year and this year when they got knocked out, they battled till the end. I mean, in the Florida series, they got down 3-0. They didn't quit. We saw them in Game 4 and in Game 5. It was good efforts. Tampa Bay series lost in 7, good efforts. That Montreal series was heinous, though. Up 3-1 in that series, and then it got to Game 7, and they were total no-show. The whole team was a no-show in that Game 7. And you said, Alex, after that show we did, after they lost to Montreal, that the team's got to go to some retreat or something as players bond together and figure out, how are we going to get better as a team? How are we going to get over this hump? And now 2 years later, barely anything's changed. Okay, you won one round since we had that little discussion 2 years ago after you won one fucking playoff round in 2 years. And you still haven't even been to a conference finals. With this great supposed core 4 that everyone talks about, 5 if you include Morgan Riley. He's the guy I feel bad for.
Yeah.
He's been here the longest. He played his ass off in these playoffs. Outstanding. One of their best players in both rounds this year. And, and you could see it in his face, just the dejection, man, after being knocked out again last night by the Florida Panthers there. And by the way, Radko Gudas, show some class, man. It was pathetic with the way you reacted after the goal went in overtime. Right, you're just screaming like a fucking moron right in Joseph Wall's face. Come on. I mean, let's show a little class. There's just a young kid in net who actually played quite well. Yeah, just not necessary, in my opinion, to do that. But Florida ends up getting the win. Last night. Apparently, people on the chat are taken aback by the change the logo sentiment for that Alex.
They know what I mean. I'm obviously not good. But what I mean is, if we've seen how many. It's funny. I don't own a Leafs jersey because I literally
one of the most iconic logos in sports.
It is, but it's been rebranded so many times, and I literally don't own a Leafs jersey because I always joke. I'm like, I don't know what version of Leafs jersey I want. Like, they rebranded it a bunch of times. They went and did a fucking reversible jersey with Justin Bieber, for crying out loud. So they could change the logo if they wanted to, but you know what I meant. They rebranded.
There you go. Let's make sure we clarify that. We got Kevin Beach with us. Kevin, welcome in. What did you think last night? Leafs bounced by the Panthers.
Yeah, right into the Leafs, eh? Love it. So for me, it was something where I thought after round 1, the monkeys finally off their back. You're going to see more of this Toronto Maple Leafs team from the regular season that you're used to the last few years, just this really high octane team that can play. And it looks now like it was more just kind of a fluke that they beat Tampa this time around, and this is the team they are. And even Tampa outplayed them that first round, and that's just the team they are. Game 4 of this series was the first time I felt like that was a playoff version of the Toronto Maple Leafs playing. I think Marner had 4 hits in the first period. That was his high of the whole season. It was 4 hits in a game. Guys were blocking. Like, I haven't seen that team block shots or play that hard before, in the playoffs in recent memory. So Game 4 was the first time where I was like, okay, wow, like this is what I've been seeing from the other teams. Like, you see the desperation from the other teams. I think Game 5 again, another good playoff game for them. But too little, too late. Like, as I think I saw Ryan mention in the chat there that Bob stole the series. Yeah, Bob was unbelievable, but Game 2, the Leafs came out flying, faded away. Game 3, you had 3 shots after the first period. You just faded away.
Yep.
So it wasn't like Bob stole 4 games. Did he steal a couple? 100%. But you also gave away a couple. That's how you get the 4. So for me, just too little, too late. And for me, it kind of sums it up as, no, this group is just not capable of doing it. They're just not.
Yeah.
You put all the pieces in the pile. You push it all in. Dubas gave them the best chance with all the pieces they added. You're not going to have this strong of a team again anytime soon with all the pieces they traded in. So it's just, I don't know what you do. Like, it's stuck. It's pretty tough to move one of those pieces and not just keep running it back. Like, it's pretty tough to move in the salary cap era. But it's looking like, no, this is your team you're stuck with, and this group is just incapable of doing it.
They all wanted their piece of the pie. All right. Nobody wanted to take a pay cut. Nobody agreed to less salary, less term when they signed their deal from that big group, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, and Matthews. And now they're paying the price for it because you're right. It's going to be hard to move. There's one maybe potentially movable contract, and that's Nylander. That's about it. Good luck with Marner, Matthews, and especially Tavares. I mean, Tavares is getting paid a shit ton, and he's not only, a little bit older, but, his offensive skill set's diminished a little bit. I think he's actually had a pretty good year this year, certainly better than last year. Was disappointing for him, but still, I mean, good luck trying to move his contract. So that's the problem. They are kind of stuck, and they're going to have to get creative, if they're going to make changes here. And then right now they have no GM because he's off the clock now. He has no contract. Season's over. Kyle Dubas is basically not working for the Toronto Maple Leafs at the moment because he hasn't even been offered a new contract. So they better figure shit out quickly. Like I say, get your popcorn ready. This is going to be a highly entertaining and very busy off season for the Toronto Maple Leafs because they have a lot to go. And let's talk about Florida. Unbelievable job. Great stuff from them. Carter Verhaeghe scores in Toronto again. Bobrovsky just outstanding. He has found his Vezina form. Let's be real. He's found his Vezina form right at the right time. The blue line, I've never seen Florida, by the way, defend this well. By the way, in front of their goaltenders in years. They had none of this shit last year in terms of characteristics of the hockey club. This year, they're blocking shots. They're boxing out. They're keeping players to the outside. They're helping their goalie out. And Paul Maurice has played a huge role in that. And I didn't think it was going to work. I'll be honest. Alex, too. We thought this was going to be a tough fit for Paul Maurice in Florida. Are you going to get these guys to buy in defensively? And they have. And Paul Maurice deserves all the credit in the world. And he rattled the feathers of the team that game in the regular season in Toronto against this same Leaf team when it looked like they were going to lose that game and lose their chance to make the playoffs. And from that moment on, they went on that tear down the stretch of the regular season. And now look at what they're doing in the playoffs now that they've gotten in. They've knocked off the historically good Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs, who were the betting favorite, by the way, to win the Stanley Cup going into the second round after Boston and Colorado got knocked out.
And it's a shame that the Jack Adams Award, honestly, is a regular season award because if it involved the playoffs, Jim Montgomery's out, and you definitely have Paul Maurice in, and Paul Maurice is the front runner. That even with what Ruff and Hackstall have done with their respective teams, but I mean, he's been amazing, and it's at the right time, right? Like they struggled all year to buy into the system, especially offensively. They had the defense down pat for most of it, but we talked about it, with a lot of Paul Maurice teams. What got him, sent out of Winnipeg? The defense was there, and they couldn't get any offense going. And as soon as they had any offense, they had no defensive helping back. The goalie could only make so many saves, and they were getting ran out. So they were able to buy in the system most of the year, but they just weren't able to execute it until now at the absolute right time.
Yep. No, he's done a great job. And I got all the time in the world for Paul Maurice because in terms of guys you want to listen to in a press conference, he's at or near the top of the list. Just gives you a ton. He's very forthright and honest, and you get stuff. You actually learn what the characteristics of the team, what he expects of the team, what he expects of the players, things about the players and the way they're playing on the ice from the coach's standpoint. You get that with Paul when he talks to the media. You don't get that, with a lot of different coaches in the league. So congratulations to the Florida Panthers. And now we set up, I guess, as Chris Cuthbert said when he called the overtime winner, what do you call it? A Southeast Conference Final? Southeastern Conference Final? It's really
Nice.
What it is. Florida Panthers and Carolina Hurricanes. And not exactly the conference finals anybody expected, but still, it's a division rivalry. Should be a fun series. Looking forward to that. The other game last night was Vegas and Edmonton. Edmonton up 2-1. Great start. Power play connects twice, and then penalty trouble. The Broberg penalty call, which really started the wave against Edmonton. Kind of a weak call, but you got to call the high stick that was made by Jan Mark on Eichel. It was a clear high stick. Unfortunately, it gave them a 5-on-3, and Vegas ended up capitalizing and then scoring again not long after that, 3-2, Riley Smith. And then after that, a great point shot by Nick Hague, and it was 4-2. Stuart Skinner gets replaced. Jack Campbell for the rest of the game. Edmonton had a 5-minute power play. Colasar boards Ekholm in that late second period, gets the 5-minute major. And the game misconduct, and Edmonton scores once on it. Looked like momentum going back to Edmonton, but man, they just couldn't finish. Aiden Hill stood tall, And Vegas hangs on and gets a huge win, especially with Pietrangelo out. What a huge win that was for the Vegas Golden Knights 4-3. And now they have a chance to finish this series in Edmonton Sunday night in Game 6. I like the way they handled it. It was a 5-minute major. I don't think he'll get suspended. They took care of it right there, especially because Ekholm came back into the game. And if you're an Oilers fan, man, you were holding your breath when Ekholm was down there. I mean, you cannot afford that guy being out. He's that important to your blue line, which doesn't have a great amount of depth to begin with. Look, I was talking with our guy, John Massey, about this. What do you do now if you're Jay Woodcroft? That's 3 times now in the playoffs, twice in this series that Stuart Skinner's been pulled. And I know he's always gone back to Skinner. And that's what I think Woodcroft's going to do on Sunday night. He'll go back to Skinner again. But if there's ever a time not to do that, this could be it. And Kelly Rudy said this on TV. At what point does it get into your goalie's head a little bit that now he's been pulled twice in this series, 3 times in the playoffs? And when does it start to affect him negatively moving forward? Are we at that point with Skinner? Can he just wipe the slate clean and say, come back and I'm ready to go? I'm still confident, because now that's 3 times he's been pulled. And this is a tough decision now because your season's on the line. It's win or go home for Edmonton on Sunday night. Does Jay Woodcroft do what he's always done? Back to Skinner. He's my guy, rookie of the year, nominee in the NHL. Or does he go to Jack Campbell in Game 6? And Jack Campbell, let's be real, the moments he's played in the playoffs, he's played really well for the Edmonton Oilers. Nothing like the struggles of Jack Campbell early in the season. So this is not an easy decision for Woodcroft, but my hunch is, knowing his tendencies and his pattern of working his goaltending, he's going back to Skinner, in my opinion, on Sunday night. But we'll see. Alex, big win for Vegas. Missed opportunity for Edmonton without Pietrangelo on the ice. Their best shutdown defenseman plays against McDavid and Draisaitl all the time. To see that lead that they had slip away, not winning that game. And now Edmonton's going to have to try to do what they did against LA last year, and that's win 2 games in a row, down 3-2.
Yeah, and they have obviously the offensive talent to do that. They can keep up with anybody in the world up front. But now you have the goaltending question once again, and that's always going to rear its ugly head with Edmonton, it seems. Whenever we're talking about this team losing, and it's unfortunate you can't place any blame on Stuart Skinner. And we talked about this, right? Did we not say that with all the workload that he has taken on this season? Because we didn't expect him to get nearly as many stars as he did, even in the first half of the year. We thought maybe Campbell would carry the heavier workload, and then second half, they'd probably be in a good spot, playoff-wise. Then they could start giving Skinner more starts and kind of utilize him as a 1B option. Well, shit hit the fan early with Campbell, and they had to go to Skinner. Skinner was the de facto number 1 throughout the entire year. And now it just seems like the workload has kind of worn him down. He's gotten fatigued, and that's just something that just happened. If the Oilers lose this series, it's not a colossal collapse or failure. They played a good team, and they just were not able to beat them within the parameters of the series. It's simple as that. And Vegas fighting tough, giving a valiant effort and getting quality stops when needed. Aiden Hill's stock value has risen tremendously. And wherever he lands, I don't think he stays in Vegas, to be honest, because he's going to probably command a decent-sized contract and want to be somewhere full-term after bouncing around. He's definitely shown his worth throughout this year. He is the perfect goaltender to have if you want to run a 1A, 1B system right now. I think he is the mold and model for that setup right now. And teams will be trying to look for the prototype with him in free agency and moving forward. So, kudos to him for really building his stock back. This is a guy who seemed like he was just going to be casted off nowhere in Arizona a couple of years ago, and has really built himself up into being a top-tier goaltender. So, Vegas, 1 win away, and the older people have to just be shaking their fists, looking and seeing that we could possibly have Dallas, Vegas, Carolina, Florida as the conference final. Gary Bettman must be stuck.
A Southeast, Southwest Stanley Cup Final Four. How about that?
Gary Bettman must be stuck to his sheets right now, because this is the vision he's had for 30 years of getting hockey all over the country and having top, quality teams in these places that were not traditionally a hockey hotbed. So, the NHL is getting their what they've been wanting for a long time with that potentially. Obviously, we'll see how the ratings do with that, but I think Vegas is in quality shape now to wrap this series up and possibly play Dallas or Seattle in the Western Conference.
We're one Vegas win away from exact, and maybe one Dallas. I don't want to discount Seattle either. They're still alive, but we're one Dallas and one Vegas win away from a Sun Belt Stanley Cup, folks. That's what we're going to be looking at here this year, no doubt. But we'll see. Both Edmonton and Seattle now facing elimination. And by the way, 3 goals for Edmonton last night. It's very disappointing, disheartening to see the team total fall short last night. But again, 3 goals and 3 of them all on the power play. Again, just not good enough, not consistent enough at 5-on-5 even strength in this series for the Edmonton Oilers. And that's got to improve starting tomorrow night. Kevin, Oilers down 3-2. What did you think last night?
Yeah, it seemed like a game Edmonton was in control of, and it just slipped away so quick. So I don't fault Skinner on those goals. Like
I fault him for one thing on the 4th goal when he got pulled. He did the old like that, like almost like I never saw the puck, almost like to his defenseman. That's bad. You don't want to ever do that as a goaltender, and I don't know if that's why Woodcroft pulled him, but that bothered. That's the first time I've really seen bad body language and something really negative in terms of his emotions and his actions in the crease from Skinner.
Yeah, that could get you yanked. For me though, it's his net, especially in an elimination game. I understand we're talking about Ian, the psyche of now he's been pulled a few times here. But kind of just saw Taylor mention in the chat, like it's too late for Campbell. If Campbell had like an okay season, and now with what he's done going into these small sample sizes, going into a couple of games, playing well, then okay, I think it's more of a decision. It's an option. But he was so bad in the season for so long that I just don't think you can pull the trigger and give him a start here.
Playoff Campbell has looked great though in the moments he's been in there, so that's why it's tough. Yeah,
he has. But he also hasn't shown confidence, in Toronto in these kind of these big games as well. So I think maybe if it was like a game 3, game 4, somewhere earlier in the season where you can, you still have some margin for error, then it's more of a thought. But with no margin for error, I think you gotta go with Skinner here. You stick with him. And Doug, I saw your question in the chat there about Koskinen. He's enjoying life in Lugano, Switzerland, so he's not going to be back anytime soon. Although
your goaltending problems aren't my concern anymore. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. He is enjoying life there with his family. Yeah. So he's quite happy out of the eye of the Canadian markets here and that kind of pressure. But I think it's still Skinner's net. Again, other than that body language, it wasn't like he didn't let in bad goals. So, but Campbell did play very well there. The rest of the game, he played very well. Can he do that when he has 2 days to think about it and going in? I don't know, but even just him being in there, it just makes me nervous. Like when Campbell's in there, it just makes me nervous. So for me, I'd be putting Skinner back in there.
And I think Jay Woodcroft's going to do what you said. He'll go back to Skinner because that's been the tendency for him throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. All right, we got 2 games this weekend. Alex, we're going to fast track him out of here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. He's got to run, so we're going to do Seattle, Dallas. I'll talk about it. Alex will talk about it. Then we'll just get Alex's thoughts on Vegas, Edmonton, and then a best bet from him, and then off he goes. Let's go to Game 6 here, Dallas and Seattle. We've got Dallas minus 165, road favorites, 5.5 the total in this one. No bargain on the Dallas side, but I got that sneaking suspicion they're going to end this series tonight. I do. We saw that obviously in Game 6 in the Minnesota series. They had no issues going on the road. In fact, I thought they played an excellent game. I remember they were out shooting Minnesota. They doubled Minnesota in shots on goal in that 6th game. It was a clinic. It was just a perfect closeout game on the road played by the Dallas Stars. Now, this is a tougher opponent, I think. I really believe that compared to Minnesota. But so this will be a little more difficult. But Dallas has the veterans. Dallas has the goaltender and Jake Ottinger. Obviously, they played better and better, in my opinion, as this series has gone on. And I think they're going to find a way to finish it tonight. Although, again, with all due respect to Seattle, they will not make it easy. This team just doesn't go away. Even in the last game, they were down 3-0 They made it 3-2, and they had Dallas sweating again, in the second period, early third period of Game 5 before Dallas finally put it away. I like Dallas to end the series here. I'm going to, I've already got them in the Stanley Cup futures and the Western Conference futures, so I'm going to keep it very small here with Dallas -1. That's the way I'm going to play it here. Dallas -1, full game puck line. And you know what I'm doing with the total. You already know at 5.5. 5 games, 5 overs in this series. I think it's a 6th. I like the over again. 5.5 -120 here with Game 6, Dallas and Seattle. Alex, Game 6, Stars Kraken.
Yeah, you mentioned the clinical execution of Dallas last series against the Minnesota Wild, and it's killer instincts. We talk about it all the time. Some teams have it in the playoffs, and some teams don't. Dallas has it, and with as great of a year as Seattle has had right now, and the way that they've played, they will still give a valiant effort in this game. But I like Dallas to come out here and finish this off strong. I took a shot with Dallas laying the 1.5 to the puck line at +165. It's now down to +155. +160. I also sprinkled a little bit on Dallas to win exactly by 3 goals at +550. I think we could see a situation where, Seattle just keeps that net empty and Dallas gets a chance to get 1, if not 2, empty net goals. So it's kind of an extension of that puck line play as well. But, like I said, I've got a bunch committed to Dallas. I think we're still in good shape. I love this series wrapping up in 6. I had bet that already. So we're hoping we can cash a bunch of things tonight as Dallas looks to advance to the next round.
Yeah, you know what I might do, actually? I might I've already got over 5.5, Dallas -1. I might sprinkle a little bit on the team total as well. Dallas, it's 3.5 at plus money. It's a really nice plus price, actually, on Dallas's team total. And if Seattle's trailing in the third period, you're right, they're going to have the net empty even longer, and there's going to be opportunities, maybe multiple opportunities for Dallas to get to 4 goals, if they haven't gotten to it already. So to see over 3.5 +125 with Dallas's team total, that's a pretty good price on that, in my opinion. All right, Alex, like I said, he's got to roll in a few minutes, so we'll get his thoughts now on Game 6, Vegas and Edmonton. Now, this is tomorrow night. Not a time confirmed yet, believe it or not.
Right, yeah.
I don't know why they're dragging their heels and haven't announced a start time yet for this game. I'm assuming it's because it's the only game Sunday night in the NHL. It's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern. But again, not confirmed as of yet. Edmonton -190, home favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. Alex, I'll just throw it right to you. What are you liking here, and what do you think happens here? Game 6, Vegas, Edmonton.
Yeah, I'll be on that second period. The third period total over 2.5 +105. This is, just a classic elimination spot that we always look for, especially with the goals that we've seen here. Over obviously it makes sense too at 6.5. What I'm seeing, based on a couple of sites, is that we might be seeing a 7 p.m. Eastern start. So I think that's what they kind of it's just logistical. We'll hear something probably in the next, before you guys log off, probably we'll have a confirmation on that. But I think Vegas should be able to wrap this up, and I probably will sprinkle a little bit at 160. Obviously, Edmonton's going to be formidable and tough early. So this is one of those games I'll probably be picking at more live. But the only thing I'll have pregame for sure will be that third period. Over 2.5 at +105, and I'd grab that sooner than later because that might even go to a price where you'd have to lay it.
All right, so liking the third period over here for Dallas, Vegas, Edmonton, lean in Vegas as far as the side goes, that they can close it out here on the road against Edmonton. All right, Alex, great stuff. I know you got to run. You're at home with the fam, so you got some stuff to do. So before you leave us, what do you like here for best bet for this weekend?
Yeah, let's go with the game tonight. Dallas Stars on the puck line, -1.5, +160 or +165, whichever one you can grab is just fine. Dallas has the killer instinct that a lot of teams wish they do. And there's a reason why they've made it through this round, and the reason why they're going to the Western Conference Finals, because they can shut things down. They can control the pace and tempo. They can take the air out of the building when they're on the road, and they will do exactly that tonight. So give me the Dallas Stars on the puck line. -1.5, +165. That is my best bet. Wishing everybody out there a happy and safe Mother's Day.
There you go. Dallas Stars puck line tonight for best bet. Alex, great stuff. Enjoy the rest of the weekend and, of course, the hockey, and we'll see you on Monday.
All right, later, y'all.
There he is, Alex B. Smith with us. And, good point in the chat by JT saying the third period overs in these elimination games have not been doing as good this year. And I'm kind of pumping the brakes on them for now. Like I lost another one last night in that Florida-Toronto game. 1 goal in the third period. That was it. And so I'm kind of pumping the brakes a little bit on it. I'm not saying abandon ship completely. I'll still pick my spots, but I'm not going to bet it every single game like I've been doing. So we'll see how it goes moving forward. But just very interesting to note that the third period overs, they haven't been that automatic cash cow like they were last year or certainly 2 or 3 years ago. Kevin, your thoughts on this game tonight? Dallas, Seattle. Dallas leading 3-2, looking to close it out. What are you liking here tonight?
Yeah, this is one of the few money lines that I'm going to play in the playoffs where I'm taking a team that's favored. So I've been on some plays with the underdogs as far as money lines. But this is one of the few where I see a spot where even though I'm paying a price here, I like the favorite team. I've just seen enough from Dallas now in this series. Other than that game 3 where the Kraken really took it to them. Other than that, they've been the better team every game. And like you guys have said, they have that killer instinct. They get a job done when they have that opportunity to kind of finish off a team. So this is one where I am going to jump on the Dallas Stars money line, even though I got to pay that minus 165. As far as props, it's I'm staying away from props right now. A couple of those guys I did like early on in the series, Jaden Schwartz, Bjorkstrand, even a guy I loved during the season, Vince Dunn. Those guys have been pretty spotty here and there. You also have McCann back in the lineup, so that adds another body of guys going to put pucks on net. These kind of elimination games I find become unpredictable with props as well. There can either be, a lot of blocks and no shots on net, or it can kind of go in overtime and go long. So.
Yeah, last night was as I think, Kevin, we just lost his connection for a second. But what's funny about last night is you're right. The elimination games can be tricky as far as shots on goal props. Last night was the night to bet shots on goal props. I mean, it was a high shots on goal volume type of game with both games, Florida, Toronto, and Edmonton, Vegas. And if you look at the numbers, all the big guns for pretty much every team that played last night, they all went over their shot prop. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, they all went over their shot prop for Toronto. Florida had many of their top guys go over their shots on goal prop. Edmonton certainly did. I don't think there's a single, big, major star forward or top forward on Edmonton that didn't go over their shot prop last night. Kane and Draisaitl and McDavid and Hyman, they all went over their shots on goal prop last night. So last night was the night you could have really done well with shots on goal props. So hoping tonight, I'm still going to be select. You can't just say, last night all the shots on goal props cashed. Now tonight you hammer them. No, they're different matchups. They're different teams. You still have to play it individually, one by one. So keep that in mind. So we'll end up seeing how it goes with that. But when I look at this game here, you know what? And some of our people in the chat have mentioned it. You're absolutely right. I will be looking at a second period over tonight, especially if the first period is like 0-0 or 1-0. I think I might bet it anyway, because for some reason in this series, ever since game one was the anomaly. Game one was the exception, where first period was crazy high scoring. And then the second period didn't have anything. But other than that, game 2, 3, 4, and 5, the last 4 games in this series, it's the second period that's had the explosion of scoring between these two teams. So, yeah, for that reason, the second period over probably is worth a look here in this game tonight between the Stars and the Kraken. And certainly it'll be worth a look if it gets off to a low-scoring start here in the opening period. But as far as props go for me, Dallas in a closeout game, you look at what you expect, and you expect, your leaders to step up. You expect, Ben, Sagan, certainly Rope Hintz, all to be involved. Pavelski, of course, for the Dallas Stars. I think Pavelski and Hintz basically to score a goal and any point props with them are worth a look at this point in time. You look at Joe Pavelski as well. He's a guy that I think can go over his shots on goal prop. You look at what he's done in this series, 7 goals and 8 points for Joe Pavelski in this series. So, if you're not betting his props right now, I don't know what I can tell you. I don't know what to tell you. If you're not betting Joe Pavelski right now, either to score a goal or get a point. I mean, you just have to at this point in time. He's been absolutely spectacular. He's always been a clutch playoff performer, and he is proving that once again right now for the Dallas Stars. He's my number one prop look tonight because in a closeout game, I find he steps it up even more. Really, if you look back at Joe Pavelski's career, some of his best games have been in games where his team is either looking to eliminate their opponent or games where his team is facing elimination. The closeout game, the elimination game, he seems to even take his game to another level in the Stanley Cup playoffs. If I'm looking at Seattle props tonight, I have to look at Jordan Eberle, who's done, I think, most of his damage in the playoffs has been, at home here at Climate Pledge Arena. He might be worth a little. You know what an underrated prop is right now? Yanni Gourde to get a point, for Seattle, which isn't going to be that big of a price. You'll get it close to even money. You might even get a plus price on it. Yanni Gourde in his last 6 games has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. 6 points in 6 games for Yanni Gourde. Speaks to the depth that the Kraken have. Eberle has a point in 3 straight games. Like I say, those are the guys I would really target more than anybody else for the Seattle Kraken. Jared McCann did score in Game 5, one of the 2 Seattle goals, his second game back from returning from that injury. So, maybe Jared McCann, and we know Jared McCann was a goal and point prop machine at one point this year. Maybe tonight with his team facing elimination, Jared McCann is ready to make an impact. So I don't mind that as well. Yeah, Wyatt Johnston for sure. I mean, you don't have to put a lot of money on Wyatt Johnston's props because he's always plus 300 or better to score a goal. And he scored in Game 5. He's been very good in these playoffs. So there's an option I don't mind as well. Those are the ones I look at. Bjorkstrand, we talked about how Oliver Bjorkstrand in the last round, especially toward the end of the Colorado series, was playing very well. He's cooled off a little bit in this series, 1 point in the last 4 games. That's it from him. Someone I would also maybe look at on the Seattle side of the equation here tonight, as far as props go, might be Jaden Schwartz with 3 points in the last 3 games. He might be worth a look. I'm talking about as far as point props go, because the price is good enough where you can take the point prop and not have to lay a big price. Same goes with Matty Beniers. I mean, he has got 3 points in the last 3 games as well for the Seattle Kraken. We might have lost Kevin Beach for good. Again, he's outside. He's on the road right now, so reception's a little spotty. So it might just be you and I for the rest of the show. But we've only got 1 game left, and it's the game on Sunday, Vegas and Edmonton. Edmonton minus 190, home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Do or die for the Oilers. Kind of sounded like Alex B. Smith was leaning to Vegas. I really think it was a missed opportunity that might come back and haunt Edmonton. But it wouldn't shock me if they still respond. They have been, and Stuart Skinner, if Jay Woodcroft decides to go back to Stuart Skinner, they have been both. The Edmonton team and Skinner himself, the goaltender, they have been the ultimate bounce back entities here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They've been excellent off a loss throughout these playoffs. Edmonton has always responded after a setback in the last game. And at the very least, I expect them to respond early here in Game 6. So I'm going back to the well with a bet that I cashed with in Game 4 of this series in Edmonton after the Oilers had lost Game 3 by a score of 5-1 at home. They bounced back and they jumped on Edmonton in the first period. And that's what I'm going to target here in Game 6 on Sunday night is the Edmonton Oilers first period puck line -0.5 plus 140 at Bet365. So a good price with that. So Oilers first period puck line, certainly from a side perspective, that's my favorite look here. I don't really love the value with Edmonton. Money line is too expensive. Yeah, Edmonton in regulation, I want no part of because I think it still could be a pretty close competitive hockey game. You're looking at -125 with Edmonton in regulation. So I don't love that price necessarily. I think the best option is, especially in this series where we've seen a great response from Edmonton, especially early in the game. Think about how they played in Game 2 after they lost Game 1. Jumped on Vegas in the first period. Think about how they played in Game 4 after they lost Game 3 at home. Jumped on Vegas in the first period. So that's been definitely the pattern here is the Oilers have been ready to roll in the first 20 minutes. So I like Edmonton here, -0.5 plus 140 first period. That's the way I'm going to play it. No other Edmonton bet except that. And maybe a little on the team total over 3.5. It fell short last night. The problem with the team total here is it's probably going to be a little bit more juiced. I'm seeing minus 132 for the Oilers team total over 3.5. I'll still put a little bit on that, but I like the first period puck line look even more. And both teams to score first period. It has cashed first period, both teams to score. And of course, it cashed last night. It couldn't have been any easier than it was to win that first period, both teams to score. Plus 145 with the Oilers and Golden Knights last night. It was 1-1 in the first 4 minutes of the game. Both teams have scored in the first period between Vegas and Edmonton in all but one game in this series, and it was game 2. Okay, game 2 in Vegas is the only game where both teams didn't find the back of the net in the opening period. And then, of course, every regular season game between these two teams, we also saw both teams find the back of the net in the first period. Each and every regular season game between Vegas and Edmonton, we saw both teams score in the opening period. So, again, very important to keep that. And actually, you know what? I apologize. Game 4 in Edmonton was 3-0 Edmonton after the first. I kept thinking Vegas scored in the first. They did not. So there's actually two games in this series where we have not seen both teams score in the opening period. Game 2 and then in Game 4, we also didn't see that take place. So just something to point out that those are the two games. Yeah, it was 4-0 Edmonton after the first period of Game 2, and it was 3-0 Edmonton after the first period of Game 4. Those are the two games we did not see both teams score in the first period. So, but I still think it's worth a look here. But like I say, first period puck line is my favorite option here in this game as far as the side goes. 6.5 total. Again, this is an elimination game, but again, the third period overs have not been doing all that well here in the Stanley Cup playoffs so far in these elimination games. So if I look at the total 6.5, I'd probably lean over with that full game, but probably going to wait for something in game potentially, maybe a little bit better price because it's 6.5 with juice. And as far as the props go for Vegas and Edmonton, now again, not all books have posted props for this game this early. Some of them have, but not everybody. I'm seeing there's really only a couple books that have props up already for this game. DraftKings and not really many other places. But I'll say this right now. If I'm looking at props here, I'm still interested in Bouchard, of course. Any Evan Bouchard props. Draisaitl's cooled off now. Okay, he had that ridiculous start in this series, and he's actually not scored now in 3 straight games. So he's kind of cooled off, and you got to give Vegas credit. Vegas has done a good job defensively on him the last few games, and they're starting to defend the power play a little bit better. It's never going to be easy to go up against this Oilers power play, one of the great power plays of all time in a single season with one team. But Vegas is starting to do a better job, at least, of trying to keep that power play under wraps. So I think when you look at the way this series goes, Edmonton, even if they get the power plays and even if they cash in on one or two of them tomorrow night, they are going to have to get better at 5-on-5 even strength. There's no question. It has to happen. If they're going to win tomorrow night and if they're going to win Game 7 and advance to the Western Conference Finals, you just can't be outplayed for as much of this series at even strength by Vegas as they've been and expect to win the series. As much as your power play is just so incredibly good, you have to bring better 5-on-5 even strength play, and that's going to be the challenge. And if Edmonton doesn't, they're going home. Whether it's Game 6 or Game 7, they're going home. That's going to be interesting to watch. It's nice to see that, again, they've had some depth scoring here the last few games, but again, you don't want to see another Game 5 situation where their only goals come on the power play. They've got to start, improving their 5-on-5 even strength play. Of course, keep in mind this game, both the both respective defensemen that were suspended the last game are both going to be eligible to return, and both will be back in the lineup for their teams here in Game 6. Alex Pietrangelo for Vegas will return following his 1-game suspension for that vicious slash on Leon Draisaitl. And, of course, Darnell Nurse will return from his 1-game suspension for Edmonton following his instigation of a fight late in Game 4 of this series that cost him Game 5. So they'll both be back for their respective teams here in Game 6. Again, like I say, right now, as far as Vegas props go too, Jack Eichel's really starting to pick it up. Marcia So keeps going over his shot props. I'd say you keep betting those. There's still good value in terms of Riley Smith point props are starting to heat up again. Ivan Barbashev has been a consistent point-producing player here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He had another point last night for the Vegas Golden Knights. So again, there's only DraftKings that really is the only book I see that has player props posted already for this game, which is tomorrow night on Sunday night. But Riley Smith point, Barbashev point, definitely worth a look. I always say Chandler Stevenson and William Karlsson in terms of goal props are a little undervalued right now. On the Edmonton side, in a game of this magnitude, you know who it's going to have to be. I wouldn't look past, the big guns. They're going to have to be big. Zach Hyman is starting to heat up. Maybe a goal prop with him. Nugent Hopkins got off the schneid in game 4, but it's really especially going to have to be Bouchard, McDavid, and Draisaitl. Those 3 guys. And I think if you like Edmonton and you think they find the back of the net early and often in game 6, those are the players you target. McDavid goal, Draisaitl goal, Bouchard point prop, Bouchard assist prop, Bouchard even, you could go with a power play point prop on Bouchard to get a little bit more value with that. So those are all ideas I have and spots that I have circled for player props. Again, we're waiting for all the different sports books to post those and put them up for the broader market. So we're just waiting on that. But as of right now, I'm definitely looking in those directions for player props. And by the way, again, if you bet the Edmonton top players over their shots on goal last night in game 5, they all flew over their shots on goal totals. Every one of them. Connor went over his shots on goal. Leon did. Not Patrick Kane. Wrong Kane. Evander Kane did. They all went over their shots on goal props. Hyman did. I think you'd probably sprinkle on all those guys again. It's backs against the wall. There is no tomorrow. It's got to be a shoot first mentality. Definitely, I would think Oilers shots on goal props and or Aiden Hill over saves. Edmonton's going to have to be the aggressor tomorrow night, and I'm sure they will be on home ice, and I'm sure they'll be that way from the opening puck drop, because that's exactly what they were in game 4 when they were down 2-1 in this series at home. Now they're down 3-2 in this series at home. So I definitely expect Edmonton to be firing that puck on goal as often as possible. So that tomorrow night's game could be a good night for Edmonton shots on goal props, especially the big guns on the Oilers for that game. All right, great stuff. Apologies for the technical difficulties with our guy Kevin Beach, but we thank him for joining us on the show, Alex, as well. Again, a reminder, just so I don't get no one asks me tomorrow on Sunday, Ian, where's the Ice Guys show? Or do you have a show today? There is no show tomorrow, no Sunday show, and there probably won't be a Sunday show the rest of the season. Obviously next year we'll have Sunday shows again during the regular season, but where it's later in the year, it's been a grind for us. Never mind the teams and the players and the coaches in the NHL. It's been a grind for us. We're here every fucking day, every single day, 7 days a week throughout the season. So to be able to give ourselves one day off, throughout the week now, we're taking it. And besides, we've got you covered. We talked the Saturday game tonight. We talked about the one Sunday game. We'll still go through every single game throughout the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We won't leave you hanging. We'll talk every game on the board throughout the rest of the playoffs, just like we did all playoffs and all regular season. That never changes, but we'll put them all into one show on Saturday as opposed to having a Saturday and a Sunday show. So it'll be nice to have Sundays off the rest of the season, including tomorrow. So again, no Ice Guys show tomorrow on Sunday, but we will be back on Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern time to get a brand new week going. And we'll see where we're at after on Monday. We'll see if we've got a game 7 with Dallas, Seattle, and a game 7 in Vegas, Edmonton, or if we're on to the second round, the conference finals. We'll see if we're off to the conference finals by Monday. So regardless, we will be here, and we will be back with another edition of the Ice Guys show on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you check out patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. Goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, daily Ice Guys show, betting card, and lots of bonus content. We just posted 2 new videos this week, and interviews that I did with former pro hockey player Colton Tubert, as well as Brandon DeFazio, who was on our show a couple weeks ago. Make sure you check out those. We got a lot more coming throughout the rest of the season and into the summer. We've got some player interviews lined up for our Patreon members exclusively throughout the summer months, just to keep some content flowing during the off season. And we're very excited about that. So make sure you check that out. Patreon.com/IceGuys. And it's just $10 a month. There are always people that say, how can I tip you or give you a donation for the hard work and the great content, the great show you have? That's the way you do it. You sign up at patreon.com/IceGuys. It's just $10 a month. And also check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Tons of great merch. The weather's warming up. Give yourself some great Ice Guys gear at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, we will wrap up the show with Best Bet from me coming up right after we hear from both. We'll do the actually, we haven't done either ad yet. We'll do them both before we get to Best Bets right now. Gramco and Manscaped.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Gramco. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, court, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta-8 THC products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta-8 products, including vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable, legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you. Gramco is also available at many American retailers as well. You can get the best Delta-8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. And if you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code IceGuys, you will get 20% off of every order, and any order that's on the site over $50 will be shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta-8 products today.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code IceGuys. That's promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, it's about 14 million balls that you can preserve. The Performance Package 4.0 is the complete accessory package to take care of everything that is required. You've got, of course, the Lawnmower 4.0. Takes care of your facial hair and among other things. You've got, of course, the Weed Whacker. I'm approaching 40. Nose hair has become a major issue. It pisses the hell out of me. I need to take care of that shit, and the Weed Whacker can help you do that. Both of these products, waterproof and a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. And you'll also be able to take care of those delicate areas with the ball toner, with the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good, looking good, and feeling good down in the nether regions. This complete Performance Package 4.0 will take care of everything for you, for all you guys out there, and it's courtesy of our good friends at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code IceGuys at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use promo code IceGuys. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, it is time to wrap things up with my best bet for this weekend's games. You know what it's going to be. Cashed multiple best bets with this very same bet throughout this series, and we're going right back to it tonight. Dallas, Seattle, over 5.5, minus 115. Best bet for me for Game 6. Stars, Kraken, over 5.5, minus 115. That's going to be my best bet here for this weekend's games. All right, that'll wrap it up. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it. And again, we'll be back Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern, with our next edition of the Ice Guys. A reminder, the Ice Guys is normally live 7 days a week, but not for the rest of the playoffs. But we're live Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, and Saturday at noon Eastern. And if you can't watch the show live, you can download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. Thanks to Kevin Beach and Alex B. Smith, who were with us earlier. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again on Monday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.